Am I the butthole for telling my apartment complex to tow the car anyway? Your post has been removed. Do not repost this without contacting the mods for approval. This post violates Rule 7. There is no interpersonal conflict here for our community to make a judgment about. Am I the butthole post should not be about feelings or opinions. Am I the butthole post should be about recent specific conflicts you have had with other people. If you're receiving this message, your post is likely about feelings, opinions, or desires rather than a concrete conflict. Please be sure to read any sub's rules before reposting this elsewhere. We cannot direct you to another subreddit, we can only say that this post does not belong here. If you have any questions or concerns that are not already. If you make changes or edits to this post, do not repost it here without our express permission. Not the butthole. As someone in a wheelchair, I am very annoyed that anyone would suggest taking the handicap parking. I also agree with the other points people have said. Original poster replies. That's exactly how I felt about it. Document these interactions in an email and CC the management company. Then write a second email to corporate requesting a prorated refund on your parking space plus a reimbursement on the off-site parking you were forced to pay for, and telling them you're deeply uncomfortable that he's asking you to violate the handicapped parking law. You might throw in a request that they promise in writing to pay your fine and any associated court fees if you follow his instructions and get ticketed. He won't make that promise, but that line of inquiry may get the manager ordered to stop treating the handicapped space as overflow parking. Could also ask for permission to install a removable parking bollard in his space. Where I live, our cultural tradition is to put a chair in our spot, especially if it snows. That which you have shoveled has now become yours until the melting of the snow. Chicago? Boston. Especially South Boston. If you park in that cleared spot, your tires will get slashed. Pittsburgh as well. I actually never saw that when I lived in Boston. It makes the news here when we have really bad snowstorms. Was going to say it's definitely a thing in Pittsburgh. They even call it the Pittsburgh parking chair. Lived there from 09-13. What a time. They put toilets in the spots in Boston. Legendary. Also Philly, so maybe just a PA thing in general. You do that in Montreal, that chair gets tossed in a snowbank lol. Claiming spots doesn't go over well here, haha. So someone shovels a spot, goes to get their car, and by the time they come back it's occupied and everyone is down with that. Man, I'm glad I live in Florida. Some people shovel a spot and expect to save it 8 to 10 hours later every day for the entire duration it takes snow to melt. Sorry, that's just not how parking spots work. I see the same thing for the last week of June and first week of July every year. Half my street is blocked off with chairs and garbage cans with signs saying someone is moving, but no moving trucks ever show up. People get mad and start parking there anyway. Boston is more prison rules than society in general. As a Minnesotan. WTF? Here we have night and day sides of the street during snow emergencies, at most 2 days of chaos parking. The big plows take care of everything curb to curb, and you better GTFO of their way or you're going to have to battle the couple hundred other ifwits who didn't move their cars at the impound lot and pay out the nose for the privilege. Sometimes they don't tow a car and it F's up the street for the rest of the winter where that one butthole didn't move his damn car. Everybody hates that guy. If someone was putting furniture in the street, we'd assume it was free or trash and think the person was an idiot for not waiting for furniture season. Boston street grid is pretty much unchanged since the Revolutionary War. It's a mess of streets at angles that curve and wind, and the streets tend to be short and have sharp corners. It's a nightmare to plow. There are plenty of streets in Boston that a modern snowplow can't maneuver to, and so people need to shovel them by hand, because the city was planned out long before automobiles, parking or snowplows were invented, and they haven't updated it since. In Minnesota, it's far more suburban and its cities are far newer and based off planned city designs. That makes sense about not getting a snowplow through old roads. Why don't they have pickups with a plow attached? A lot of places where the plows can't go just use bobcats here. I bet one guy with a bobcat could make a killing plowing people's spots. $20 for 2 minutes of work. Edit. I object to the idea that anyone actually plans St. Paul. Canadian and same thing here. Chairs? Lol. Southie Law. Yes, sounds like Boston. Back in 2014 or 2015, can't remember the year, we got all of our snowfall dumped in the month of February. It was an absolute crapstorm of record snow. People in the city were getting their tires slashed right and left because they would take up a parking spot that someone else spent 3 hours shoveling out. 2015. I remember it well. Over 100 of snow. Sidewalks didn't exist anymore. It was a free-for-all between pedestrians, cars, and the few dumb/brave bicyclists who ventured out into that mess. When I lived in Jersey City, the same unspoken rule applied. Dibs. My solution during the 10 years I street parked on the north side, once it started snowing, just pretend I didn't own a car. That way I never had to get into the ethical minefield, that is Chicago dibs. Any city. They do it in Philly. Lancaster too. Last snowstorm, someone took my trash can from underneath my stoop and used it to save a spot outside my house. I thought that was very courteous of them to save me a spot, person shrugging, female sign. I'm in Pittsburgh. The law of the lawn chair is sacred in Pittsburgh. Almost as sacred as our pickles on Christmas trees. Yeah, but that's different. I'm from Boston, and the chair thing happens on public streets, which is why I'm against it. This is a private parking space that the original poster pays rent for. I'd be really ticked off too. I feel bad for the tenant with a family emergency, if that story is even true. But if management does not want to tow them, they need to offer original poster a better solution than illegally parking in a handicapped space. If you have a family emergency, either A. It's so much of an emergency you'd park anywhere and not care about the consequences, or B. It's a family emergency but it's not that big a deal and you are taking advantage of things because it's an emergency. Philly. Pittsburgh. Haha. Ah, space savers. Where I am from you got 48 hours for your labor. Pointing finger, this I agree, 100. Even if the manager does make them move, please follow up on this with his superiors. $175/month is a lot to pay for parking, especially if management is not going to enforce others not parking in assigned spots. If allowed to get away with it this time, it will happen again, if not to you, then to someone else. This is not acceptable. I hope you'll update us. I don't even want to pay $30 for covered parking. I can't imagine paying $175 and not getting to use it for even a day. Not the butthole the manager could be lying, and technically, they could have the vehicle towed to the handicap spot. You pay for your spot. Edit. Since I triggered someone, I need to specify I don't think it should be moved into the handicap spot. I said it because that's where management kept telling original poster to park. I get pissed when randoms park in those spots too. The tow company would never do that. They would be in trouble for one, and they just don't tow cars to another spot. They tow them back to their yard. If they are contracted with the building, I've seen them tow cars to other spots nearby. I just said the handicap spot because that's where management said for original poster to go. Apparently, I triggered someone though. Not you just got in and saw this other person's comment. The manager indeed sounds suspicious. Especially about parking in the handicap spot. Also, I wonder what is the emergency and who having the emergency. I'm suspicious because the family member inadvertently parked there, but since he obviously spoke to the person about the issue, it's no longer inadvertent and that person now has the manager's implied or explicit permission to park in the spot that original poster more or less owns. I'd bet it's someone the manager knows personally, like his adult kid moving back in or something. That was my thought, that it's the manager's family or good friends that are taking ops spot. It's one thing to have let them do it for a night, but several days. Very fishy. I can't see him doing it for any random tenant. I hope they write something up on the management to the people higher up, because it's ridiculous. The manager's sure ridiculous and lazy. Sounds like saying, not my problem, I don't care. Deal with it yourself. To a problem where it's indeed his job to solve. Info. Have you asked the manager if you can get a refund on parking, plus, remove the cost of street parking from your rent for the month? That seems like a reasonable compromise, especially if they do move the car tonight. Edit to Not the Butthole. Original poster replies. I did ask and they said no to both requests. Definitely follow through with your complaint to upper management. That's ridiculous. Then management needs to make the owner of said vehicle or the apartment owner form their family refund you for your parking costs since they are the ones that forced you to pay for parking. Threaten a lawyer. That freaked out management companies. If you have any lawyer, friends, have them write up a letter for you. But they won't unless they are willing to follow through. My friend's a lawyer and I asked him to do this. He said no, because he won't follow through. And any lawyer who's not going to follow through is not going to send it. Mentioning a lawsuit/possible lawyer involvement works a lot of times. I lived at a pricey apartment complex that was really crappy about maintenance. Roommate and I had a bunch of issues that would take weeks to resolve, and a constant dryer issue that the maintenance person actually made worse. Once I mentioned that I'd hate to have to file a lawsuit, the dryer was fixed within the hour, and any time we had any issue again, it was dealt with same day. I was never anything but friendly to all the office staff during this, too. They just had to know that I was serious about the lease agreement. I hate to break it to you, but I think your friend just didn't want to help / was blowing you off. Either that or he works for a firm that precludes him from any outside representation. I am a lawyer, and I have written numerous letters on behalf of clients and friends, some of whom are attorneys themselves, threatening legal action that I had no intention whatsoever of actually pursuing. Oftentimes, the mere threat of legal recourse is enough to persuade someone either to stop their wrongful conduct or to take a desired action. Cease and desist letters can be effective tools. Your friend's statement that any lawyer who's not going to follow through is not going to send it is complete nonsense. I don't believe I know an attorney who has not done this at least a few times. You can always ask them how to write a letter to get the best effect. Their name doesn't need to be on it. This is a load of nonsense. Lawyers will absolutely write a letter of demand without needing to follow up with an actual lawsuit. So, they're fine if a resident's emergency inconveniences you so long as it doesn't inconvenience them. Honestly, you could take them to small claims court over this. They had no right to make the decision that another resident's family could use the spot you are contracted for and they owe you for the financial damages you incurred as a result of their decision. Solid not the butthole then. They should be providing the service you pay for, or making it right. This is theft. Your spot that you pay for has been stolen, and your management is allowing it to happen. Do what you got to do. I'd be a jerk for doing this, but a family emergency doesn't excuse blocking someone from their parking space for a weekend. I'd leave a note telling them what happened and detailing the cost. I wouldn't ask for money or anything, but I would make sure they knew that just park anywhere wasn't really a thing. Plus, who's to say it's a real emergency? I hear a storyline that I immediately think there's a whiff of bullcrap. I would rephrase it as not a request. Figure out what your parking comes to per day and deduct however many days it ends up being from your rent for the month. Tell them you will be withholding the amount from rent, as they have failed to supply you with a suitable parking space, despite your lease agreement stating that you would have one. Also, get pictures of the other car parked in your space to back up your claim. I'd also bring the complaint up to upper management ASAP. So that's $5.73 per day for the spot he pays for, plus the cost of street parking. So probably roughly $30. I think that's reasonable to withhold from his rent payment. Don't forget escrow. If you withhold rent, you open a claim in escrow and pay it there as to not seem like you kept the funds for selfish reasons or didn't have enough to cover. I'd go to his manager about this. Charging someone for a service you aren't actually providing is illegal, and paying over $100 a month for your parking spot is a lot, especially if they aren't going to enforce it. This man just doesn't want to do his job. I'd almost believe he knows whose car it is since he's willing to face a write-up for it. Definitely not the butthole. They are only collecting rent and nothing else. Useless. If corporate doesn't satisfy you, small claims court will force them to settle. Not the butthole, follow through. I would definitely go to upper management. Put that in writing with a complaint to corporate. They may well be not happy to find out what that manager has done. Get one of these requests and refusals in writing if possible. Try to correspond through an email to document the events. Summarize what's happened up to this point and explain you expect immediate action, then send to management and upper management. I wouldn't even mention the family emergency. That's not pertinent to the contract for that parking spot you have with the company. Why don't you just call your own tow truck? Because the tow company wouldn't do anything without approval of the management? Call one of the sketchy ones. They'll have no problems moving a car, with or without management's approval, as long as they're paid. They'll get paid when the person comes to get their car. I have never ever heard of management refusing to tow. I have been the person parked in the wrong spot, and only a cash bribe to the tow truck guy got me out of it. I theorized above that the manager lied about the situation. Maybe it's his friend or girlfriend using the spot. Depends. When I lived in an apartment, I had the lease with my specific spot in there. Any tow company in my area would tow off of that. You got to go to upper management and keep going up as high as you can. Not the butthole. I would actually minus the cost out of next month's rent and write an email to them explaining why. Keep the proof you paid for parking and take pictures of the parking spot taken, then take them to small court claims, not the butthole. Not the butthole. This tenant has stolen your parking spot and management has failed to act. Definitely complain. Demand reimbursement for overnight parking as well as being inconvenienced. Even if the other tenant's family member is there for an emergency, they can still take a few minutes and move their car. I would demand reimbursement for the entire year because this was inconvenient as hell and pretty rude. When you pay for that spot and management lies multiple times about getting you the spot you paid for available for you use, there's a problem. Have management pay for your off-street parking, which they absolutely should because they're demanding you not use the spot you pay to use, and have them give you the rest of the year comped, or else they can settle it in court, which would cost more than just letting you park in your spot for free. I feel bad for those people though. Family emergencies/deaths make people have tunnel vision and do things they normally wouldn't do. I wish you could just, for free, have the car moved to the street and have management pay for their parking, considering they've involved themselves in the entire thing anyway. Man. That management really sucks. Seriously. WTF? With Corona, most places have almost no visitation. Maybe one, probably not, but could be two people at hospital/nursing home. They don't have 10 minutes to move a car they illegally parked. Nope, something is wrong here. Yee, the guest didn't pay for it, he shouldn't be there. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to be the first to know about Red Rabbit Reader's new videos. If you like our videos, please like them on YouTube and share them with your friends. We welcome your comments below. Press to start another of our videos.